Right here we have our company. We're on the Recon class. For some reason they decided to call it Recon instead of Scout in Battlefield 5. I'm not really sure why. But we're going to go through each and every little category, and I'm going to tell you why I pick the things that I pick. So first of all, we have the combat role. Now you've got the choice between the Sniper and the Pathfinder. Now on the Sniper class, you get something called the eagle-eyed trait, which is whenever you tag an enemy, you actually spot them, and they're spotted for like 5 seconds. And there isn't actually another way to 3D spot except using the spotting scope. So this eagle-eyed trait is actually extremely useful for shooting enemies that are running through bushes and stuff like that. You can get second shots off so easily doing that. I don't really use the whole breath for longer because I'm not really aiming down sight for that long, but it's still useful to have. As for the Pathfinder, even if you do take the squad spawn beacon, I just don't see that many other scouts using the spawn beacon, so I don't really see the point in trying to take like other people's spawn beacons. I think I used it once, and in like 10 games I saw one other scout using a spawn beacon, so I just don't think it's worth taking Pathfinder. Moving on to my sniper rifles. Now, this is what the skin that I'm using on my SMLE. I thought that the gold plated looked pretty good, and then I've got the chromed finished, which I actually paid for, the company coins or whatever, for the chromed finish on the scope and the handguard. And then these are my specializations. So on every single sniper, I always take quick aim, which is aiming down your sights 33% faster. I always take quick aim on all my snipers. It's just so much better than, well, I think sometimes it's a different one, but aiming down your sights is so important as the sniper class. You've got to acquire your targets as quickly as possible. And then with the SMLE, I've actually not gone for the moving faster option. I've actually gone for switching to the pistol faster and shooting sooner after sprinting, and I've gone for the faster rate of fire. That's because with the SMLE, I almost use it like a DMR. My accuracy on the SMLE compared to my other bolt actions is actually a lot lower. It's like 10% lower because I just fire relentlessly. And I'm like, I just keep firing, hitting body shots, hitting headshots, and like it's so easy at close range to just keep cycling the bolt and, you know, hitting multiple enemies, whether it be in the body or the head. That's the best way I've found of using the SMLE. I don't really take time to aim, but it works out really well at close range. I do not use the SMLE on any medium to long range map. I never use it at long range. As for the final two specializations, I don't really use the zeroing, and I don't really use the bayonet. It's the same for all my other snipers. It's not really worth it for me. I never use the bayonet because most of the time it gets you killed, and I wouldn't really use zeroing, but I guess you probably go with the bayonet or the zeroing. It doesn't make a difference. You're pretty much good. As for the M95, now on this one, I've got the gold plated on the muzzle, receiver, and stock, but then I've added the Arras handguard because I thought it looked a little bit cooler. It makes it stand out a little bit. And I've got the medium range scope on there. Now, as for specializations on the M95, I have, once again, I've got quick aim, aiming down sight faster, and on this one, unlike the SMLE, this is another close range sniper, I have improved accuracy and aim fire whilst moving, and I move 60% faster. So the M95 for me is like the close range to medium range sniper. This is the one where I'm moving as much as possible, usually out in the open. I usually use it on maps that don't have a lot of cover, but are like still close medium range, Twisted Steel, Aerodrome. So on this sniper, I'm always moving, and I'm shooting whilst I'm moving as well, because there's not an accuracy penalty like there has been previously on this scope. So yeah, I go for the move faster whilst aiming down sight, and again, doesn't make a difference what you choose for the last specialization. I honestly don't see the difference. I just don't use the bayonet, and I don't use zeroing, so you can take either of those. As for the Krag Jorgensen, I have gone for the half gold plated, half mint. So I thought that the full gold plated looked a little bit tacky. I do have them all unlocked, but I often just mess up the customization a little bit to make it look a bit more interesting. This one also has the 6x scope, and I love the way the scope looks on this gun. It's so cool. So with the specializations on the Krag, we have gone for, once again, we've gone for quick aim, and we've gone for variable zeroing, not because we actually want the zeroing, but because we want low drag rounds. Now this and the Kar98 are the only snipers that you can actually get the low drag rounds on. I specialize this weapon for medium to long range maps. So SMLE for close range, M95 for close to medium range, Krag Jorgensen for medium to long range, and then the Kar98 for long range maps like Hamada, for instance. On this, so I've also gone for the low drag rounds and then the bipod, but honestly, I don't use the bipod or the bayonet. And frankly, the bipod can sometimes get you killed because you attach it to surfaces and it slows down your animations and stuff. Honestly, you're probably better off just not picking either of these final points. But I just look at, because it kind of looks cool. But yeah, ultimately, this is my medium to long range sniper rifle, and you want the fast, low drag rounds. And the Krag, for me, is kind of like a fast-firing Kar98. It's like a really high RPM Kar98, but it's not as high body shot damage. So sometimes you need 3 shots to the body to kill with the Krag, so you've always got to aim for the head. And then finally, we have the Kar98. So with the Kar98, I've gone for gold-plated on everything but the handguard, because I absolutely love the urban blue wrap on the barrel. I think it looks really cool. And I've also gone for a 6x scope on the Kar98. So my specializations for the Kar98, once again, quick aim. Always got to be quick aim. Always quick aim, and then variable zeroing. Basically the exact same setup as my Krag. So yeah, the Krag and the Kar98 I've set up in a very similar way. However, they both have very different roles, because the Krag is a little bit better at killing multiple enemies at medium to long range, whereas the Kar is the ultimate long range sniper. That's where I use it. You can use both. But so yeah, the same setup on this as the Krag with a bipod, but ultimately it's just for looks. I wouldn't use the bayonet or the bipod. There's actually a disadvantage to using the bipod, the bayonet, sorry, because if you take the bayonet, it actually makes your gun longer. So sometimes you'll be hiding behind a door and your bayonet will stick out the side of the door. So sometimes I actually don't take a bayonet because I know that it makes your gun longer and it makes you almost easier to spot. As for anything else, I've also unlocked the ZH-29, all the assignments for the ZH-29. Out of the 3 semi-auto snipers, I feel like the ZH-29 is just the best of the lot. The RSC and the Model 8 are 3 shots to kill at long range. And in my mind, I think, well, what's the point in taking the RSC or the Model 8 when I could just go the Assault class and use the Gewehr 43 or the Seb's Ladder, which are also 3-shot kill at long range. Yes, you will sometimes get the 2-shot kill at close range with the RSC, but the ZH-29 is a 2-shot kill at all ranges. So I haven't really bothered with the RSC or the Model 8. I've only gone for the ZH-29, and that's what I've gone for the customizations. As for specializations on the ZH-29, I have gone for quick aim, once again. I've also gone for the detachable magazines on the ZH, which makes the gun so much better. If you're trying to load each round in for the ZH, it's absolutely horrible. But when you get the detachable magazines, it makes the gun so much more usable in a lot of situations. You can just constantly reload every time you use a round. It does have quite a long reload though. And then we also have barrel bedding, which is obviously part of taking the detachable magazine. It's not really my choice. And then reduced recoil, so you can control the recoil as you're taking those shots at range. Not really much point taking the bipod. Definitely take the recoil buffer on the ZH. So for my sidearm, I always use the revolver. So the revolver is a 2-shot kill to the body at close range, a 1-shot headshot, and it's one of those guns that's kind of like a last minute, like if you go down to 10% health when you're fighting someone, there is always the chance that you could just pop out from behind the corner and 1-shot them in the head, which is what I've done many times. It's like, it's pretty foolproof. You'll possibly lose to guns like the Ruby or the M1911 at close range because they can kind of just spam. But the revolver on almost every class for me is the best secondary to take because it has such high damage. And even if you're finishing off an enemy that you've already hit in the chest with a sniper rifle, it's really good at finishing off enemies at long range with just one shot. It does about 25 damage at medium range, but it does drop down to about 14 at longer ranges. As for the melee weapons, this is actually quite an important one. Melee weapons actually do have a big difference. So knives are a 5-hit or 4-hit melee kill. So if you're running up to someone, you've just got to go, oh, ooh, like 5 times before they die. It's ridiculous. And sometimes, even if you've shot them down to less than 50% health, you still won't kill them after like stabbing them twice. It's the melee system in this game is so weird. Maybe it's good for taking down enemies from behind, but honestly, I don't think it's worth it. For me, you want to go for the heavy, sharp items. So the hatchet, the pickaxe, and the kukri. 2-shot melee kills. So even if someone's 100% health, you melee them twice, and as long as you hit those 2 melee hits, they're going to go down, as opposed to the knife, which is like 3 or 4. So going for a heavy melee weapon is very important. In my grenade slot, I go for the throwing knives. The frag grenades and the smoke grenades probably would be beneficial to a different playstyle, but the throwing knives are actually a really good last resort, or if you know that the enemy's right around the corner and you need to do one shot of high damage, the throwing knife's really good. Even though it's been nerfed now, it's still really good. So for instance, you snipe someone in the chest, you switch to your pistol, you run out of rounds on your pistol, you still have 2 throwing knives to throw at the enemy to instantly kill them at close range. So it's really useful to take the throwing knives. And then as for the spotting scope and the flare gun, honestly, I barely use these items. The spotting scope is probably more useful than the flare gun because the flare gun is actually the worst gadget I've ever seen on the scout class. In the beta, it was actually pretty decent, like it was worth taking. Now, if you use the flare gun, shoot it up in the air, it maybe covers the area of like a small house. Like, it's just not worth taking the flare gun anymore, unfortunately. So I don't take the flare gun anymore. I barely use the spotting scope if I have it on me, but they need to do something about the flare gun because right now it's literally useless. I don't bother using it. And then for my final gadget, I use the AP mine, as I've said. Sniper decoy, completely useless. I see about 1 sniper decoy about every 2 days. Spawn beacon, it's only really worth it if you're going to take the Pathfinder perk, and I don't really see other people taking spawn beacons. Most of the time they get instantly destroyed. It can be good for some maps though, and for some modes. For instance, like Frontlines, spawn beacon's actually pretty decent, and for basically getting behind enemy lines. But as a selfish player, I use the AP mines in so many different ways. You can use the AP mines to destroy cover, because I don't have a grenade to blow up cover like the fortifications. You can use it to bait people around corners. So someone sees you, they start rushing you with an assault rifle. You put down the AP mine just before the door, you run around, you wait. They run through the AP mine and you get free extra damage, and you can almost always win that engagement. The AP mine has so many different uses, it's always worth taking for me. So that's why I take the AP mine. But yeah, I think that's everything that you need to know about my sniper loadouts. I'm not really going to bother with the Model 8 or the RSC, just because they're just not as good as the ZH. If you have any questions about this class, or if there's anything that you think that I've forgotten, make sure to tell me in the comments if I've forgotten something that's really important that you want to know about. Obviously, my character's appearance, I change that a lot between my classes, so that always looks... I don't really go for the try-hard customizations on the characters. Like, I don't have specific camouflage for each map. I just wear the same thing, and I think it just looks cool. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little look into what I do with my classes, and if you did, make sure to leave a like, and I'll see you in my live streams on Twitch. See you later.